We're going to go ahead and start our entrepreneurship, the struggle, and the success panel. Thank y'all all for coming in today. My name is Arlen Nelson, and I am currently the Creative Industries Division Coordinator with the Economic Development Department with the state of New Mexico, and I will be your facilitator for this panel. I'm going to go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves, tell a little bit about themselves and their business, and we're just going to go down the line, and once we get back to Isaac, we'll hit the questions.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Ndidiamaka Obareke.
You good?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Ndidiamaka Obareke. Most people know me as Didi. I'm the president and the owner of Olive Tree Compounding Pharmacy located in Rio Rancho. I'm also the owner of olivetree.skin and a few other platforms that I champion as well.
Habaragani, Gina Langu ni Jupera. So I said, good afternoon, my name is Jupera, and I'm the business owner and inventor of Kenna Wraps. These are collagen-infused head wraps made to aid in every aspect of your hair journey. We are a patented product, and we sell online at kennawrap.com.
Hello everyone, my name is Talal St. Lo, and I'm with New Mexico Grant Administration. We provide comprehensive grant consulting services to governments, tribal entities, nonprofits, and businesses. And we started in 2020.
Hello everyone, my name is Isaac Crow, founder and CEO of So Be It. We're a one-stop shop for custom aprons and apparel merch for businesses and restaurants here in New Mexico and the United States. And I also do product development outside of my own company.
Thank y'all for that. Thank y'all for the introductions. And I think I want to go ahead and start. We got 5 questions, and then we're going to leave it to a Q&A for anybody who want to ask questions in the audience as well. Our first question is going to be, and each panelist is going to be able to answer the question, what unique challenges have you faced as a business owner of color in New Mexico, and how have you overcome them? And we can go.
I can speak to that. I think there are many challenges that entrepreneurs face, and they're not necessarily always determined by the color of your skin. But I think one that is, especially in our landscape here in New Mexico, is visibility. Sometimes you're not seen, and a lot of times you're not heard. So the way that I have overcome whether or not I'm visible, the way that I've overcome whether or not I'm visible is to be very intentional of plugging myself into places where I want to be seen and where I want to be heard. So after about 2 years in business, I realized that if I continued the way that I was going as an entrepreneur, I probably wouldn't get very far. And that it was very important for me to build partnerships, community and business partnerships. After about 2 years in business, that's when I realized that business is all about partnerships and it's all about relationships. If you're focused on revenue, if you're focused on price, if you're focused on, any of those things, that's a quick race to the bottom. But if you focus on building a very strong community around you, then you journey very far. So there's an adage that says if you want to go somewhere, you can go alone, but if you want to go far, you should probably go with someone. So I have a lot of community partners who get me on panels like this. But then I also have partners in the pharmacy industry as well. Very, very strong, influential partners. And that has brought me to where I am today as a pharmacy owner.
For me, to answer that question, I'd probably say funding. The truth is a lot of funding options with traditional lending options and banks weren't designed for minorities of color and ethnic entrepreneurs. And so that has probably been the hardest challenges is finding funding to back our product or to help us scale to get to that next level. And so one thing that I have learned in the business is, and again, collaboration and partnerships are key. I've learned that the traditional lending options that we are also, used to aren't the only avenue to help you fund your business. There are a lot of organizations, NMBD, West, the chamber, the Black Chamber, that have helped a lot of us to scale our businesses when the traditional bank wouldn't.
Thank you so much for that.
And I'll piggyback off the financing idea, just because that's definitely one of the major challenges that I face. Being able to start New Mexico Grant Administration. The first 3 years in the business, I had a full-time job, so that's the way that I overcame that challenge, is to work extra, and I think that transition in of itself is a difficult transition. Being from an employee to an entrepreneur is difficult, just as an interpersonal journey, because you have to stretch yourself and challenge yourself to do things that maybe you're not used to doing, or you might not feel totally confident doing, and doing it. And then taking that first step, and then testing out your ideas or whatever it might be, while you still have some security, and then being able to work that, and at the same time networking and learning about how to run a business and what that might be, what that might involve, especially if you didn't go to business school, is I think the biggest challenge. And I'm speaking to the folks that might not see themselves as entrepreneurs. Maybe they didn't see themselves as running a business at first, but they don't like being an employee, and you don't feel valued in all the organizations you've worked for. And so making that transition, I think, has been my biggest challenge, and I've done it successfully through financially taking care of myself by maintaining a full-time job, networking with folks, and learning about how to run a business, and learning about the intricacies of what that involves, without having to learn the lessons the hard way. So, taking West classes and learning as much for free as you can before you have to do it, right? And you get hit with the hard lessons is the piece of advice that I'd share.
Nice. Well, they took all my answers. So, so I think that visibility is definitely one. Access to funding both impacted me very much. I think a unique kind of challenge I faced, being in apparel, starting an apparel business when there's so many apparel brands starting, just small, t-shirt brands. A lot of people see your brand as that, they dumb it down to, and nothing against anyone who starts a t-shirt brand or whatever, but I wanted to go bigger than that. I wanted to go nationwide, global, and not just have an apparel, a t-shirt brand, but actually an apparel company. You think of Calvin Klein, you think of Polo, I want you to think of So Be It. And so I had a challenge in, getting out in the community, talking with people. There'll be some people that buy my stuff. A lot of times the price was out of range for just this community. And so I had to think about another way to kind of get into the market without actually, selling, right to the customer. And so I pivoted and I started selling to businesses. So I started doing custom apparel. And so I'm using, leveraging the marketing and the apparel manufacturing experience that I have. And I'm actually making products for businesses, like merch, custom aprons. That way, my idea is that, the customer has a favorite place, right? They want to support. They'll buy the merch, and then they'll see our tag on there, and they'll say, oh, that's So Be It, right? And then eventually, once we do create products to go, directly to the market, they'll already know us. They'll know our quality, our brand, our style. and they'll be kind of like a warmer introduction.
Thank you for that. Now, knowing that before you start a business, you have to do market research and understand the environment in which you're starting in. How has the culture and economic landscape of New Mexico influenced your approach to business?
Want me to go first?
I want to start.
Sure.
I was about to say I want to start with Isaac.
Since I'm already hot, so I'll say I think this community, especially in Albuquerque, it's kind of like it's a small town community. I moved from I was raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. Moved from Houston, Texas, and being here, it's more of like people kind of do business with who they know. They buy products from who they know, and being in front of the community. If you're trying to sell products to the community, it's important to like you were talking about, do collaborations with other businesses, take part in like different events that people can actually see you. Like there's a growers market downtown, pop-up shops, just being out in the community and having people like see your name, see your brand, see your face, get to know who you are, and they'll be more comfortable with buying your products.
Yeah, so I'm originally grew up in Haiti and have been in New Mexico for the past 20 years with my family, and so we're half New Mexican, half Haitian, and I think I was able to draw some connections between us living in Haiti and being here in New Mexico. New Mexico is one of the last states in the country, very different from the rest of the country, and really what I saw what I felt is through my career, I was able to work in areas with individuals that now I currently work with as a business owner. So a lot of the people I used to work with at the University of New Mexico or at the state or even in private industry are still the individuals that I reach out to or that I work with on a daily basis. And so that's something that's really, I think, benefited me as in that transition as developing the business, is having that industry experience and also being, I think, accepted into that sort of the networking, I have to know you before I work with you type of, business style. I think being here in growing New Mexico Grant Administration, I haven't felt as much, I haven't hit as much obstacles or walls as I feel like I might hit somewhere else in a different state, for example. And especially now, I think more than ever, and I'm talking about New Mexico landscape, all that, I think New Mexico is a very special place in this country as a minority starting a business and trying to do something. Both on the financial and the personal level, you could really make a huge impact and help a lot of people and connect with a lot of people.
Thank you for that. All right, I know you got it.
The Kinnerap has been, affected by the culture here in New Mexico, simply by the culture. Like, I'm not sure how to explain that besides saying, the biggest advocate for me, I'm a Black-owned business, right? I invented the Kinnerap with my two daughters. They're 13 now, and so you could say we're a woman-owned business. But the New Mexico Minority Business Development Agency and the New Mexico Co-op Capital have been the most fundamental in helping me, right? You would think that I would say Black Chamber or, an organization. It's simply been them. And so when you look at, I can call right now and call the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And there's at least 3 people there that I promise you I can say, the Kinnerap, I don't know what I'm doing. And we have a fire to put out. Meet me in 10 minutes. And they will meet me. I get on the phone with, the New Mexico Co-op Capital. I'm trying to do business with them. And there's a Caucasian lady that's literally trying to say if they're going to give me their grant or not. And I'm having, the loan or not. And I'm on the phone with them. And she's like, I own a Kinnerap. I know how amazing they are. And so, and to top it off, my biggest mentor, literally my biggest mentor in business is Dar Johnson. he's
Mine too.
an old white man, right? And so the culture of everyone that has been able to see the value in this Black-owned product has been fundamental. You know, right now my product is manufactured in North Carolina. We're trying to bring the product here to New Mexico, and I'm going to hopefully be working with women on the Santo Domingo Pueblo, you know, to make Kenna wraps, you know, and so that's the easiest way I can answer that question. Like, we have been impacted by culture, period.
Thank you.
So just to spin off of that, I think it's bittersweet, you know, because great, you have business, you know, but it's not necessarily from the ideal client that you thought you would have.
Yeah.
So when I started the pharmacy, I knew nothing about figuring out who your ideal client was. I didn't know how to go through that process and how to analyze the market for that specific person. But funny enough, through the years, what I found is that my ideal client looks nothing like me. But when they think of pharmacy and when they think of a pharmacist, they look of the person who looks like them. And so when they see me, they're a little bit confused. Like, what do you know about hormones? I'm like, we all have them. Right? We all have them. Every woman goes through menopause. Every man goes through andropause. Many of us have pets who need medication. Many of us have children who need medication, right? So pharmacy is like universal. But when I started my business, the process to finding my ideal client, I didn't know it would lead me to where I am today, which is having an ideal client that looks nothing like me. So what do I do about that, right? Because I would love to reach women and men who look like me. Because if you look at the health disparities in our country, we all know what those numbers look like, right? We all know who has access and who doesn't, right? And so it'd be very important for me to reach African American women who are going through menopause, who think, oh baby, I'm just gonna drink some raspberry tea and it's all gonna be done. No, it's not. Like, you need compounding medication. You need compounded medication, you need my services, right? But how do you reach them? And I think that's one of the challenges that I face now. So I have to be very intentional about being in those spaces where I can see those type of women who, when they see me, they can trust me, they can confide in me, and they can seek healthcare services from me. So.
Thank you for that. Now, I'm only going to say one more question, and I'm going to open up to the audience just because of the time, and I know we started a little late, and I want to respect the panelists' times as well. So, my last question is going to be, what advice would you give other entrepreneurs of color looking to start or grow their business in the state of New Mexico? And we'll start with you, Dr.
Oh, okay.
And can it be in your field too if you're thinking about wanting to encourage more Black pharmacists? We need it. Okay, yes, I can. What advice would you give other entrepreneurs of color looking to start or grow their business in the state of New Mexico?
I think I would say there's this thing that I continuously tell myself in my language, Ganihu. Keep going forward. Okay, the reason why I say that to myself is because I finished pharmacy school as an honor student in 2008. I practiced pharmacy in the industry until 2016. That's 8 years. And it was terrible the whole time. I hated it. Okay. But in 2016, that's when I decided to start my own compounding pharmacy. I had never compounded medication before. I'd never owned a business. I didn't have an MBA. Didn't know anything about marketing, about pro forma data. God, mijo, keep going forward. So no matter what I was told, which was no many times, right? No, you can't do this. No, you need to sell your car first. You shouldn't be driving a Mercedes, which I probably shouldn't have been driving. It was nice though. but God, mijo, keep moving forward. So now I just completed a commercial real estate project. You know, there was a time this was when they were pouring the asphalt. And I vlogged the whole process, building this commercial real estate. And as they were pouring the asphalt, I finished my little video and I'm walking away and I actually pinched myself. And then I said, maybe I died and I went to heaven. And this is my afterlife. Like, I can't believe this is something that is actually a part of my story. But God, Nihu, keep moving forward. So that would be my advice to any entrepreneur. If you want to start a business, first of all, New Mexico is probably one of the best states
Yes.
because there's so many resources, right? There's so many partnerships and collaborative efforts that you can make that would make you successful. But I think no matter the challenge that you faced, God, Nihu.
Thank you for that. All right, Japira.
Mine is short and sweet. Just you have to be obsessed with your own potential. I told everyone that I run into before I can help you, before I even you can even tell me how you need help. You have to be obsessed with your own potential.
All right, Talon.
I would say, it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. That's something that one of my old professors had taught us, and that applies to everything, a lot of things that I've done. But I think especially about the business journey and starting a business and doing it. It's not really about the end goal; it's about the process, the journey that you're going through, and making sure that you're staying confident and that you're continuing to work and you're not giving up, because that's really what makes entrepreneurs, right? And I'm told I'm not a natural entrepreneur. I don't feel like I've grown that, but that's a principle and a concept that's very clear and understandable. And I know that when situations come up and I feel like things aren't going to work out well, it's just about moving forward. And so
Was it Ganino?
I wanted to say it too.
We're all taking
I'm
it.
saying, you spoke to my spirit.
Yeah, so a lot of my philosophy of entrepreneurship is wrapped up in kind of what they're talking about, just like relentlessly pursuing your purpose, regardless of the obstacles you might face, enjoying the journey, embracing the process. But I think if I had to leave some advice for entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, not just Black, but anyone starting a business venture, I would say mindset is like the biggest thing. If you think you can't do something, then you probably won't be able to do it. If you think you can, then you got a good chance, regardless of like how big it is. You dream big, and if you think you could do it, then you're going to get pretty close, if not exceed what you're trying to do.
Right?
Thank y'all for that. And we're going to open it up to the audience, so if you have any questions, all right, we're going to start with you. And how you say your first name?
Shaina.
Shaina.
Yes, so I have a question for any of you guys. If you have one thing that you could change, like a regret that you had when you were on your entrepreneurship journey, what would it be?
I think I would have reached out to my network sooner. I have a very individualistic mentality. I can do it, and if it's not broke, I can fix it. If it's broke, I can fix it. And so, I think I would have joined the chamber sooner. I would have, joined just these other organizations much sooner. I think that would have helped.
Anybody else want to answer?
Yeah, I started my business doing custom aprons. So I taught myself how to sew in 2020, and through YouTube. And so I started just like making aprons, did some custom aprons, and then it's just I was doing everything from start to finish. So I was sourcing the materials, sewing the apron, finding the customers, all that. So I got burnt out, and around this time I had my first child, and I stepped away from the business, and I was working with Gabby over at Dream Spring, and I stepped away, and then I went into like apparel because I wanted to like find a bigger market, to serve. And if I could change one thing, I would have stuck with aprons because it's so niche, and I would have just like kept going. Worked it.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to answer that question?
All I would say is educate yourself as much as you can before. There's a lot of free educational tools that could, take 15 minutes a day, an hour a day. I regret not tapping into, West, MBDA, just the free resources that are online that you could just look at, where people drop gold all the time and you were able to pick things up. So
Thank you for that. Now we'll move over to Marissa.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
So my question is, so my name is Marissa. I'm an HR professional looking to start. I have no idea. I have ideas, lots of ideas.
Right.
My questions to you all are, what was the catalyst that pushed you out of a full-time, maybe specifically for you, out of your full-time job, outside of not wanting to work for anyone, and how did you hone in on what you were going to specialize in?
That's good.
So have you ever just like stumbled upon something? Like you just, oh, okay, I guess this is where we are. That's what happened. So I think, like pharmacy, first of all, I got tired of people not believing that I was smart enough to be a pharmacist. People not believing that a black woman could be a pharmacist. That it gets old. So you're like, okay, I'm just gonna do my own thing. And then you don't have a choice. Right? So I stumbled out of retail and hospital pharmacy and then stumbled into compounding, not really even knowing what the business was about. So for you, don't wait until you have every single piece of the puzzle to say, okay, it's perfect, now let's start. No, put it together as you are going forward, right? So you have a name, Secretary of State, file your business, start.
Right.
Get a couple of customers on LinkedIn. Hey, I'm offering these, sir. I could do your payroll services. I can interview people for you. That's literally, and then you build your company. You put structure to it as you go. Yeah, but don't wait for everything to be perfect.
There's a big misconception that you have to quit your job in order to be a successful small business owner, and you don't. I'm a writer for NASA Aerospace. I have a full-time job, and I've been very successful as a small business owner. It's not always going to be ideal, right? Not everybody can do it, but I wouldn't not start, thinking that you have to do either or. In this room alone, there's, you can network, get 50 of our
Yes.
emails
Yes.
and reach out to us, and, at least 20 of us will get with you, and we are your first clients right there.
Right.
You know what I mean? While you still have your full-time job. So,
Yeah. So for me, kind of the same thing. I never saw myself having my own business, but after graduate school, I got a job at the UNM Center for Health Policy, and the director at the time, Dr. Gabe Sanchez, he said, "You know what? I'm going to hire you to do grants. There's a lot of opportunities in grants." And I looked at him, I was like, "You think I'm going to do grants the rest of my life, man? Like, give me a break." And so I had that job, and then sure enough, I transitioned to work for the state in grants, right? Because I started my career in grants. That's what's on my resume. And then I started learning about it, and I liked it because it was attached to my real passion, which is funding and development and learning how those things work. And then I worked in the industry until I started piecing things together, and I was like, you know what? Like, these people need services, and they would pay me for it if I had my own business. And then I started the business and started working while I had a full-time job, and I looked for a virtual job to be able to provide me that space to be able to continue running my business. That was important. And then I actually started paying myself as if I was a full-time employee for a full year before I felt safe and confident. And that's just me because I have, I'm not the full confident entrepreneur type, right? I wanted to have those numbers there. And so that's what got me ready. And I was like, I've done it for a year. I know hopefully this will continue for a year. And then you have a new administration and things happen. Everything changes in grants, but we'll keep moving forward. And so it's working, and it's worked out. So
Yeah, I want to add to that too, because I was working at a nonprofit full time, and I think when I started So Be It, I was, like I said, I started selling at home, and I would go to my full time job. And I think the biggest thing, like the business was growing, and I started thinking about it more often. I found myself just kind of like drained at my job, and what gave me energy was like my business. So I'm like, at some point I gotta quit. It wasn't until a full year had passed that I actually quit, and it was like the best decision.
Yeah.
Thank all of y'all for sharing that. I ain't gonna lie to you. Some of that had to speak to me a little bit too. So I really appreciate that. Brother Ken Jackson.
So, with the, as a younger generation, and with the constant reminder from my generation telling you about everything that happened years ago and why, because of your skin color, you can't make it, how have you been able to get past that noise of I can't to listen to the words of I can?
I will answer that in saying social media has been transformational for youth and younger generations and millennials and all of us, right? But I would say growing up in New Mexico, for me, let's say in middle school, was tough, being a dark-skinned black girl in New Mexico. I'm not saying that those same ignorances aren't there for my daughters, but they also see a million different beautiful black girls when they open their phone. Do you know what I'm saying? And so social media has played, it's just been transformational with the influencers that they see and everybody that looks just like me. So even though they don't see that in their classroom, here in New Mexico, when they're on their phones all day, they see that. And so I follow, have my daughters follow, the only social media they're able to have is TikTok.
Okay.
And so I follow them and I have them follow me, and I literally have them follow people that have the right mindset, that can help them with their confidence. And, so I think all of us can do that. We can all use social media to help sort of break those barriers, because that's what the youth is doing. You can't tell my daughter, anything about her hair, right? But with me, you could, because when I went to school, no one had, curly hair like I did, so it's helped. I'm sorry, I am an advocate for social media in those ways. I think it's helped.
I think the
Go ahead.
okay. I think the landscape of the dream has changed too. I think what my parents' generation was chasing is different from what
we are
I'm
chasing. Right.
So, like, if you look at small business in America, only 7% ever reach $1 million in revenue. Only 7%. And of that 7, only 1% ever see $1 billion in revenue. So what do you think I'm chasing?
$1 billion.
I'm not an immigrant from Nigeria coming here just looking to go to engineering school, or I just need to be a nurse. Nurses make a lot of money. No. I want to be that 1%. So I think when you hear them, you first of all, you extend a lot of grace, because their horizon is limited. Just coming to America is amazing. That's enough. You've accomplished a lot, But for us, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think to add to what you were just talking about, it's just like representation, seeing other people who look like you doing something similar to what you want to do, or advancing further in their field. I think that's important. And I think social media is definitely created a way for people to look inside of the lives of other people and draw inspiration. So I love social media for that. I would say, I was pretty much raised to think I could do anything. And I guess maybe being the youngest of 5, I had empowering parents to support me, growing up. And so I think when it comes to outsiders saying like, oh, you can't do this, I mean, that's just fuel for me. Like, I'm just going to prove it. So.
Yet for us, it's almost old school to hear that. It's like, really? Do you think that hurts? Like that it goes through one ear and out the other?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say technology is the great equalizer nowadays. As I was, none of my clients, very few of them look like me. Once you're able to provide value to folks, and I don't want to say, money talks, because money does talk, but it's really value. In my case, a lot of our clients are governments. And if I'm able to tell them that they're going to be able to work less or work more efficiently, and they could just pay me to do it, it makes perfect sense for them. And so I think maybe distancing yourself from those idealistic barriers, and really focusing on what the that thing that's bringing you together is. It has helped me to kind of get past. I mean, my dad's here, and he's told me growing up. I grew up in Haiti, so I grew up in Haiti and came here to the States. Not understanding how it is to live like in the States. And my dad told me how it is because he lived here. He grew up here in New York and in California, and so we do have those. I understood, and I felt like what I should be experiencing or seeing. And all of that experience, got me to realize, like, especially here in New Mexico, talking about the environment and all of that, as long as you present value and you're respectful, then that to me, that's opened the doors and helped to break down those, things that sometimes I think are in us, and don't really exist, or we actually make them exist, because there might be there, but remnants of it, but you kind of bring it up, when you kind of focus on the differences. And so
yeah, I like that.
Just to paraphrase the conference you stated, I would say money talks, value shouts.
Yes.
I like it.
I thought you were going to say the other phrase.
Any more questions?
Sure. Can you talk about one of either the hardest moment in your business or the one you can think of the quickest, and how you overcame that? DD.
Why?
I
Okay.
don't know how awesome you are.
Aww.
Yes, you are amazing.
Okay, so the hardest moment was in 2020. Mr. Dar Johnson, my mentor as well, he said, "Hey kid, let's meet for coffee." I said, "Okay." He said, "Bring your financials." I don't know why he calls me kid. I'm not a kid, but he said, "Bring your financials." So I brought my financials, and he was so shocked, right? But as a business owner, I had no clue, like, whether I was doing well in business. All I knew, I wasn't in the hole, but I didn't know how well the business was doing. So he looked at the numbers and he said, "Okay, you have two options. Either you build some real estate and move your pharmacy into that real estate, or you open a second location." I said, "A second location is not smart. So let's build real estate." So I got approved for funding, a little bit more than $1 million to build 6,000 square foot building. Then with COVID, it took a year to get permits to build, and I lost that funding. And so by the time the permits were released, my construction project had doubled. So I had to go through the process all over again. The good thing is that I did have a little bit of naivety. Like, I really didn't know, like, how bad the situation was until one of the lenders started taking money from my account to pay for the mortgage on the entire property that I never built. So that's when I was like, okay, all right, let's put these boots on. So I found the president of that institution and his entire executive staff, and I drafted a letter, and I'm like, "Hey, you big guy, like, stop messing with me." So we went back and forth, and I finally, I was able to recover some of those funds. It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And went through the process with Capital CDC, Maxine Montoya, she's amazing. Fred Shepard helped, Lorraine, like, just so many people rallied around me. Finally got the funding that I needed and was able to build. So, gani.
I'm into real estate, so we own properties. I think it's very important as a business owner to own the intellectual property. What happens, a lot of people, they open up a restaurant, candy store, whatever, they're paying the landlord the money.
Yeah.
That money should be in your pocket. I wouldn't even get into the restaurant business unless I don't build it. That's just me. So we believe in ownership. I grew up in New York City. I grew up in the Bronx. My family been in real estate since 1970.
Wow.
Right. So I grew up as a landlord kid, owning property. The mindset, you gotta own, you can't rent. So what you did was fantastic, you know,
Yeah.
young lady from Nigeria. What you did was fantastic. You own the property. Don't make the landlord rich.
Right.
Keep that. That's your profits. Your profits are going out the window. Pay rent. You know. So keep it within yourself. You know, that's just my opinion.
I think even, you know, like accomplishing this project, honestly, I really don't even feel like I did it for myself. I think it was for, like, we're talking about, you know, how do you inspire the next generation, or what do your parents tell you? You know, I saw my dad build a house, but not commercial real estate. Right? Even when Dar Johnson told me, I'm like, commercial real estate, that's a lot. Right. And so I see it, right, it's a staple that this can actually be done, right? I didn't have all the resources. I didn't have $2 million in the bank, but it's something that can be done. And the money is there.
Indeed. All right, so we got about 3 minutes until we got to be out of here. Anybody want to ask one more question or answer a question that already been asked?
I have a question. Okay.
I was just a statement, like, leaving here, I'm just like leaving inspired. So thank you all for sharing your stories. I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing
Thank you
that.
for the question.
We done?
Oh, he had a question.
Yeah, my question is to the two people that are involved in the rap and my background is in textile manufacturing.
Oh.
So I did vertical integration. I can help you guys.
I love that.
Setting up your operation from sourcing the product.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do.
For sure, yeah.
When you used to go to Target and the shirt said made in Haiti.
That's
here.
awesome.
That's what we talking about. Cool.
That's awesome.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
All right. Well, thank y'all.